All right, so I'm here with Courtney Davis. She is a sixth grade math teacher here at Redwood Middle School, and we're going to talk about her pre-planning conference and what she plans to discuss and do during her observation and some areas that she could improve upon and kind of what data she wants us to observe and to collect during her class discussion. So, Courtney, how has your teaching been going so far this school year? I know it's only October, but I feel like it's been a whole year already.
It's been going pretty well. The only part that is a little stressful is I'm teaching a new subject in a new grade.
Yeah. So that can be really overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I moved from 7th to 8th grade from teaching ELA to history, that was kind of...
That first year, you're learning the ropes.
Yes, and I feel like I've still changed things every year since. Like that first year was a whirlwind. I had to figure everything out. And then every year I'm like, oh, I don't like the way I did that last year. Let me change that again. That's why I kind of like teaching the same grade and the same subject for so many years, because you can kind of tweak as you go. So in what areas would you like to improve your teaching?
So right now, I think that my strength is small group instruction, and that's what 75% of my class is. But I think I could grow in my whole group instruction.
Okay.
And the delivery of that.
Okay. And what do you mean when you say the delivery of that?
Sometimes I get straight to the point.
Okay.
So that I have a max amount of time for small group, and I feel like I could do better at connecting math to real life situations.
Okay.
And do better with some whole group discussion.
Okay.
It's hard to get kids to talk about math.
It is, because there's so much problem solving and a lot of you working it out that there's not a whole lot of discussion of that unless you're helping someone who's struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas history is the complete opposite. It's all discussion based. So you said that you think you're strong in small group, okay? And so we need to look at areas of whole group instruction and connecting the content to real world application, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And like student discourse, probably. I should probably
Okay.
do more of that.
So the students talking to each other about what they're doing.
I did a couple little...
Like a turn and talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did a little bit last year
Think,
for test
pair,
review.
share. Yeah.
But it's hard when you're trying to get all the standards taught before standardized
Right.
testing. You feel like you just have to drive ahead through everything.
To get to the point where they're prepared for the ACAP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had way more opportunities to do discussion and get more into whole group when we were doing review at the end of the year last year.
Yeah, for sure. After that whole...
Because
So
the
maybe-
pressure's off.
Maybe you more focus on like getting the content in, like that first part of the year where before we're doing the ACAP, and then after the ACAP is really where you can go back and hone in on those strengths. But then at that point too,
It's too late.
they've pretty much already been tested on that,
Yeah.
right? And so it's more prepping for the next year's content than you really have time to go back and reteach at that point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of hard. What type of behaviors are we going to observe in the classroom? Like, what will students be doing? What will you be doing during the lesson that I am observing?
Students will be participating in guided notes, guided math discussion, and guided practice.
Okay. And then what will you be doing?
I will be delivering
Okay.
a mini lesson
Okay.
on measurement conversions. And I'll be focusing on vocabulary.
So providing background knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it will be heavily scaffolded since it's an introductory lesson. And I'll be training them. It might end up being a hot mess because at the same day, I'm also going to be training them how to use a scientific calculator and
For the first time.
and getting them back into practice of using their ACAP reference sheet.
Okay.
So there might be some hiccups, but
So what do you mean when you say scaffolding? Like, what does that look like?
it'll be more of me guiding the students through the problems rather than the students doing them on their own and sharing their work. It'll be me. It'll follow the gradual release model.
Okay.
I do, we do, I do, we do, you do.
Right.
But more emphasis on we do and I do.
Well, you kind of have to get that down before you can do the,
Yeah.
Um,
And the next day we'll go into a lot of practice.
independent practice.
Mhm.
There was something I was going to ask you, but I forgot already. So what would student behavior improvement look like? Where do you think student behavior is struggling as far as like following the content of the lesson, doing what is expected, like student engagement?
So I started out in the beginning of the year where they would like cut out their notes and put it in the notebook, and that ate up way too much time. So now we fill them out, and after they do their exit ticket problem, then they cut and glue them and start on their work. So that helped with that. I think the problems I struggle with the most during whole group is I have some kids with special needs that might interject, and it's hard to handle that gracefully sometimes.
Especially in the whole group environment.
And to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm writing on the board so much, it's hard to circulate.
Right. Okay. So what would improvement look like in that area? What are some strategies you think you could implement to improve in that area?
Teacher notes is a strategy in their IEPs, because some of my kids with autism will interject if they're not done because they feel like they have to complete something.
So giving them the notes instead of them filling them in.
Because it's not really, kind of getting ahead of the problem, being preventative in what they're doing, and keep in mind they're going to need more time than the gen ed students to fill things out.
Okay.
And giving wait time and circulating more. It's hard to get away from the board when you're doing math.
Yeah, I mean, because math is all on the board too, and you have to be in front of the room, which means
I circulate when they're working.
You can't turn around, whereas like I can teach from the back of the room if I'm doing a PowerPoint, but I'm not having to write anything.
And you can circulate, and I try to get little opportunities. So like, you have to give wait time, and I'm trying to get better at that, like when they're working on math problems, because they can't work it out as fast as me. And so when they do that and I'm circulating to check for understanding, I could also be preventative on those behaviors.
So tell me about the procedures in your classroom. Like, I know you teach a different grade level, so you're not changing classes every hour like I am.
So we have 90-minute math blocks.
Okay.
So they come in and they have bell work. They have a daily math review, and for fluency, they get their green light on reflex.
Okay.
Then we go into a 20-30 minute mini lesson. That could be introducing something new. It could be a set of notes. It could be reviewing, doing a warm-up. And then we go into, that's probably about 45 minutes right there. And the last 45 minutes of class is independent practice, small groups, differentiated practice.
Are they doing independent practice while you're doing the small groups?
Yes. So I have it
It's like a rotation.
I have it set up to where I check, like, if it depends on the activity. Sometimes I want to check it myself and they'll bring it to me. I'll do a quick check because the people in my small group are working at the moment. And then they'll move on to their differentiated practice, which is usually iExcel or a game. So.
Okay. You said at the beginning they come in, they do a bell ringer. What does that bell ringer usually look like?
So it's 10 problems a daily math review that are lower level. So and it's going to be reviewing the content we've already looked at.
Okay.
And then every Friday we go, I take up their iExcel sheets and check their iExcel practice. We do a 5-minute division drill, and we go over the daily math review. One thing I want to do better about, though, is maybe start going over the daily math review each day, not at the end of the week.
So that
would be more impactful.
Daily math review that you're referring to, that is the 10 bell ringer problems. Okay. So that you're just calling it the daily math review. Okay.
They're the DMR.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after the bell ringer, you do reflex. So describe...
It's if they finish early.
If they finish early. That's before the mini lesson. So describe what reflex time...
And sometimes I pull small groups during daily math review, too.
Oh, okay.
Like,
so, yeah.
That stuff, and I know that
especially if they're working the problem during that time and you know that
some
they
of them
need
get
more
double-dipped.
one-on-one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the resource teacher also comes in during that time, and she pulls a small group.
Okay.
I have her pull a small group to use that time effectively. I like to organize my class period around when the resource teachers come in. I like them to come in during independent practice, small group because they're not useful during.
So do you have that planned out for her, or does she come in and she pretty much knows who to pull, what to do?
She knows my procedures and she knows where to help them. So she'll help them with a daily math review, or she'll help them with what we're working on independent practice.
Okay. So is there anything that you want to, like any new procedures that you would want to try to, I mean, I know you said going over maybe the daily math review every day instead of weekly.
I think that would be more impactful because, like, I got it from another teacher and she goes over it on Fridays. But I think it would be more impactful going over it every day. It would encourage the students to do what they're supposed to do and hold them accountable each day.
Instead of waiting until the end of the week and then they have to do it the last minute.
And then it would cover some misconceptions in the beginning
before you move on.
Because they're doing similar problems every single day, and if they have that same misconception every day, that's not helpful to them. It'd be more helpful to take care of the misconception
as they rise.
First day, yeah, and then.
So do you feel like you don't do the daily math review because you don't have time every day? Is that why you do it? You push it at the end of the week?
It's hard because, like, it would be a really good end of the class wrap up to do the daily math review together and then do an exit ticket from the lesson. But it's really hard because I trade that time out for that extra small group. That I got to pull another small group from what we're currently working on.
Gotcha.
So sometimes there's time if everybody's really getting it, and sometimes I forfeit that time and I pull another small group. Okay. But closure is important. I mean, like
wrapping it up, and
neuroscience trends it's part of the learning. Like you need to consolidate your learning.
Right.
You need to wrap it up at the end.
Right. And you need to identify what you went over, what you learned, what was new, and then how that connects to what you're doing.
And that's best practice. So I could get better at my end of the class procedures because it's always just like small group until the bell, and I'm like, wrap it up. Like, right. I'm fighting for my small group time when really, I think they could also really benefit from a wrap up.
Yeah. So, okay. And so we have established that I will come Thursday, tomorrow.
Yes.
And what time? I know between 11:15 and 1, but what specific time?
I take the kids to the bathroom from 11:45 to 12, so probably 12 to
12:20, 12:25.
Yeah, something like that.
And you are in room what?
D20.
Okay. Are there any types of instruments that you would like for me to use when I observe and collect data? Like, would you like for me to look at student engagement? Would you like for me to look at depths of knowledge? What type of data would you like to be collected during this time, or would you like for me to do more of an overall view of what's going on?
I kind of like your overall view because maybe you'll observe something that I don't see on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
I'd rather just get your take on your perspective on what's going on.
Okay. So we talked about the content that you will be teaching, and that is measurements.
Mm-hmm. Measurement
conversions. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that because I'm not a math person.
Okay, so
just
all right,
a general.
So we're gonna review how to convert measurements within the same system. And they know that from 5th grade. But what's new and what's complicated is we're bringing in a scientific calculator and we're converting between measurements with approximation, approximated rates. So I don't even know how to describe it. I need my reference sheet. But it's like converting
decimals?
Between systems. So it's like feet to meters.
Okay.
So it's like kind of getting them ready for rates and stuff in science and math and stuff in the upper grades. But I think that'll be a really big challenge for them and honestly be like, whoa. But that first day, that introductory, I'm really just going to try to draw their prior knowledge out and what they already know about converting within the system.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to, on the next day, do another mini lesson that specifically focuses on converting between systems, different systems, because I felt like they needed to break that up because
different steps.
They're going to struggle with it.
If you introduce it as a whole,
it would take way too much time introducing the calculator and ACAP. So I'd rather draw what they know, make sure that there's no gaps, and then address the new concept.
So what do you expect, other than use of the scientific calculator, what do you expect
reference sheet
students to learn? What's your goal for them to learn?
Well, in that first introductory lesson, I want them to, at the very minimum, learn how to set up a proportion to help them solve a measurement conversion problem, which builds on what we've been doing with rates and labeling it.
So setting up proportions is kind of your goal. You want them to be able to do that independently
With the ACAP sheet.
using the reference sheet.
Now, one big misconception that's going to happen tomorrow is, do I multiply or do I divide? So that I'll address that the best I can during whole group, but they won't really start encountering that until
they start working it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it'll build throughout the unit. So tomorrow, as long as they can set it up within system to system, they'll have the basics for the new skill of converting metric to customary.
So tell me about the students that are in your classroom. What is the makeup? How many kids are in there? What are the demographics? What are some of your challenges? What do you have a higher achieving group?
Let's see. I mean, it's predominantly white students. I do have some challenges with a couple SPED students in there. So I have a nonverbal autistic child that we are currently collecting documentation on to do another IEP meeting with, because he is a disruption in the classroom. So like, if I give him a teacher set of notes, like basically like his math level is on a first grade level, so he struggles to access, like, hey Kane, he struggles to access what we're doing in class, because his reading level is also kindergarten level, so what we're doing is like way over his head. So he likes to get on like unblocked games as much as possible, and it's really hard to redirect them to anything useful in math, because first of all, it's way over his grade level. Second of all, he will disrupt and like burp and cuss people out and stuff if I ask him to do like anything. So it's almost like
You just have to expect non-compliance.
I just expect non-compliance and document it. And then another one is Cameron Brown. He's like always leaving the class. I used a name.
It's okay.
Okay. He's always leaving the class. He's always down in the resource room making up work because he's unmedicated, and he just like, he needs a ton of time to do things. And then I have one SPED that is chronically absent and is always out of the room missing instruction to make up stuff that he missed. So those are the challenges in that class. For the most part, it's a good group.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that we've got pretty much all that we need to know to prepare for the observation tomorrow. I'm excited to see math because I don't see math very often.
I don't know
I'm
what you're gonna
excited to see sixth graders, and then I'm excited for us to kind of look and see what happens and, you know, what we can improve on and what we can
And
change.
it's my second block, so usually I get better in between.
Oh,
block one
we
and block
always do.
two.
Yeah.
So I'll know a little bit better how to talk about it and like how to guide them through it after I teach that first class, because my first class is my highest group.
Yeah.
So it's like a really good group to make mistakes.
Well, and that'll be something that we can discuss in the post conference too. Is
And
like
this is
what
my lowest group.
what changes that you want to make based on what happens the first block and the second block. So by the time I come in there, you'll already know like what went wrong and what could have been better, and we can discuss that a lot in post conference too. So, all right, thank you so much for your time today, Ms. Davis.